What's going on, guys? Today we're talking about one of my favorite stocks in the stock market. We've talked about it quite a few times on this channel now, and that is Google or Alphabet, whatever you know it by. We're going to be going over everything today, and we have seen some craziness in the market, and that comes on the back of a huge announcement from the Fed. So we're going to go into that announcement, everything that's happening there, how that's going to affect a Google stock, and specifically we're going to actually take a look at 2008 and how the recession in 2008 can be used to kind of judge what could affect, how the recession could affect ad spend in 2022, where we're at now and moving forward. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like down below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that sub button. So here we have Google's chart, and Google is down 1.8% today, and it has been a very rough week. So they have dropped through the floor from around $104, now dropping below $100, and that is absolutely massive. So what we could see here is their 52-week low is now $99.27, and at market close they were actually sitting at $99.28. After market close, they've dropped below $99. So you can see here that they're sitting at one point, we're sitting at $98.80. So this is absolutely a huge move, and this could transfer over in tomorrow. We could see Google fall even further as the market digests some of this news from the Fed. And that news was that the Fed is increasing interest rates by 75 basis points once again. So this is an extremely aggressive move. We have never seen this before. So the Fed has never actually increased interest rates by 75 basis points 3 times in a row. So this is the third time that the Fed will be increasing the rate by 75 basis points, which actually takes us up to a federal interest rate of around 3 to 3.25%. So that is the highest that we've seen since 2008 for the federal interest rate. And this has implications across the market. As money becomes less and less available to companies, it becomes harder and harder for these companies to grow their bottom line and top line, whether it's revenue by increasing capital projects and capital project spend, or acquisitions, or just overall productivity of the company becomes more and more difficult as money is less freely available. One goal the Fed has had for a long period of time is keeping inflation around 2%. And Powell said here that my colleagues and I are strongly committed to bringing inflation back down to our 2% goal. So they've targeted around 2 to 3%, year over year. They like to see that number. They feel comfortable with that number. But where we're at right now of 8 to 8.5%, they are still very, very uncomfortable. And it's very uncomfortable as well that they haven't seen it drop in a significant way, right? We got up to around 8.1 or 9.1%. And so far we've only dropped down to around 8.3%, I believe, is where we're sitting at right now. So they really want to see that number start dropping in a significant way before they start pulling back on some of these rate hikes. So how does this all affect Google? At the end of the day, when companies face a lot of uncertainty with the market and with how the economy is going, the first things that they tend to cut are discretionary spending. And advertising for a lot of companies is put into that bucket of discretionary spending, which means businesses can tend to do without advertising, right? It has a lot to do with their brand recognition, and it doesn't contribute directly to the bottom line. It can be hard to track a lot of these advertising goals. With Meta and Facebook and Google, there are a lot more tracking tools, so you can see traffic that is actually driven to your website, and you can see people who are spending dollars on your website. But a lot of brands like car companies, right, they're not selling their cars online. They're getting people to come into the store. So it's hard to quantify the exact number of people who, see an ad on Google and all of a sudden go, oh, hey, I want a new Toyota Camry. So it's hard to put numbers behind that for a lot of these big advertisers like car companies and even big food companies, Coca-Cola. It can be very difficult to put numbers behind how much traffic you're actually driving towards your product. What we saw in 2008 during the recession was that advertising spending actually dropped 13%. The bright side, especially for Google and Meta, is that online advertising only dropped by 2%. Granted, these were different markets at the time, right? Back in 2008, there was a lot less online advertising. So obviously, people who found success in online advertising probably kept with it. Well, television and a lot more of those higher cost advertising platforms like television, radio, things that have been around a while, those dropped more significantly because, right, it costs a lot more to get that advertising space, where a lot of online spend was still relatively new. It was a lower barrier to entry in terms of how much money you really needed to spend to get a Google ad or get a Facebook ad. So that's something to consider there. But overall, that's still a positive, right? People are seeing, and people even more so now have seen the positive benefits to online digital advertising as opposed to TV and radio. So you would kind of expect this trend to continue, right? Because people are spending more time on their computers, on their devices. So digital advertising makes a lot more sense. Well, television is still expensive and still doesn't have a direct target, and you don't have a lot of metrics behind how much traffic you're actually driving. One interesting note that the Motley Fool put in this article is with the decrease in growth that we've seen for Google over the last couple quarters, and based off the multiples, the lowest multiples that we were seeing in March of 2020, they've made a prediction that Alphabet could go as low as $85. So again, that's a prediction based off saying that growth is going to continue decreasing over the next couple quarters, that earnings will come in very poor over the next couple of quarters, and that the multiple of the PE ratio multiple will drop to where we've seen it in March of 2020. So again, those couple things would have to occur, but with that, that would still be a drop of around 15 to 20% in the stock price from where we are currently at right now. So with all of that, why did I title this video about buying Google stock? Well, what we have here is one of those cases where the market is going to start pricing in all of these bad results. They're going to start pricing in these rate hikes. The market's going to look at what could happen to earnings for Google and Microsoft and Meta and all these other companies with this rate hike. And what they tend to do is they tend to overcorrect. And we have an earnings estimate coming up, and this is just an estimated date of October 25th. So that's about a month out. And what that presents is a month of opportunity, because as the market prices all of these things in, and during that time, there should also be another update as to where we are at for inflation. But you have all this time to spend to start basically building out a position. I never recommend buying your full amount of shares that you want to own at one point in time. It's always a good thing to basically look at dollar cost averaging into a stock. So now we just had a huge release about interest rates increasing significantly, an unprecedented amount. And companies are going to react, and the market's going to react, and hedge funds are going to react. And what they are seeing is a potential decrease in earnings across the board for all companies. And that gives you, again, a good buying opportunity now. If we see inflation go up or down, again, that if inflation goes up, it presents another good opportunity to buy into the market. And if we see a poor earnings come in for October 25th, if they report on that date, again, that's just an estimate, then you could see, again, another opportunity to start to keep building out a position. So you have these three kind of events. The event that we had today, where the market's clearly reacting in a very negative way. You're going to have an event in a few weeks where the Fed will announce where inflation's sitting at, and then you'll have earnings coming up, which all, again, could be negative events, but you never know. And that's why it's always good to dollar cost average into a stock, because, right, if you buy now and all of a sudden inflation actually comes in and we're in a better position, let's say it goes down to 7.5%, then your shares are likely going to be higher because the market's going to react in a positive way. Google will go up by a fairly decent amount. We saw a couple weeks ago the market go up by 10% in a matter of a couple weeks. And you don't want to miss out on that move. So if you buy into a small position, that gives you exposure to that large move or potential large move. Otherwise, if the market drops, then you just average in, because nothing has fundamentally changed with Google, right? Over the next couple quarters, we'll see where their earnings come out. The business is still in a great position. Their balance sheet is still in a great position. If you look at their, where their PE ratio is at, it's just going lower and lower into more exciting territories. So overall, I'm trying to build out my cash position to add more to my Google position, because I was really upset with how I reacted in 2020. I only bought one share back in 2020 and they did a 20-for-1 split. So now I have 20 shares, but overall, I could have added a lot more to my position when the stock was so low. And I missed out on, in a big way, on the potential that Google has moving forward. And I don't want to miss out now. And that's my biggest fear, is missing out on the potential upside that a stock like Google has. So overall, that's just my opinion on the stock. I love to hear your guys' opinion down in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think. Obviously, don't buy into the stock just because some random guy is buying into it on YouTube. Make your own decisions, evaluate all the metrics for yourself, and then if you like the stock, pull the trigger on it. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that sub button. And as always, guys, thanks for watching the video and have a wonderful rest of your night.